What's good, everyone? It's Boo here, and sometimes when I'm developing, I get very lucky and I don't run into too many roadblocks. And because I'm surrounded by such amazing staff, I have the luxury to be ahead and have a little bit of free time. So I'm going to take this time to work on some sort of side quests that we may or may not pursue as a company in the future, depending on how this arena game turns out and how the pitch meeting afterwards pans out. Before anything, we're gonna watch a video that we clipped in the past. So yeah, John and I finally, Jordan was here earlier. We started at 12 and we finally got the multiplayer to work. We've been working, we started this on what, Monday?
Yeah, no, it's Sunday.
Sunday. Alright, it's looking good. We're gonna let you guys know about the project. Hopefully by Friday where we can get more playability in. And yeah. This video was made June 19th, 2018 by a young John Lamb and young Bowie. To summate, we wanted to create a third-person shooter that was fast and fun. But first, we needed to create a multiplayer framework. Our goal was that we wanted to be able to play a game that we made with our friends. So, recently I've decided to restart the framework for a third-person shooter game. The first thing that I did was I opened up a third-person shooter template and played around to see what I did and didn't like about what I was starting with. Here, my main priority is to play with the camera and see where I want it. I spent a good amount of time centering the camera around the player so that I could emphasize that they are the main character, even in the midst of other player characters. Next, I took a bunch of animations from Jobii Mixamo and started to create the blend space and program the basic movement. I'd like to note that in these phases, it's my job to get something up and running so that when Stefan and Randy gets this, they have something to see and we can start creating our vision on how the player characters should move and feel. Player character feedback should essentially be like driving a car. When I press the A key, I should have immediate feedback of the character strafing just as if I were to turn the wheel of a car. I should feel the car axle shift and the friction of the tires on the road. Although it's not something that we can get right 100% of the time, it's definitely something that we strive for every time. In the end, this was what I was okay with for this iteration. Next off is getting shooting down. The primary goal is always to get something running. Afterwards, we can change it to our needs and then optimize it. In this case, the goal is to be able to shoot once, like a semi-automatic rifle or a pistol. The design decision here is to go with hit scan or projectile-based weapon handling. Example of hit scan games include CSGO and Valorant, where projectile games include Halo and Fortnite. Here, we go for a hit scan, namely because movement is not a big factor in our game and we want to keep things going at a high pace. Remember, we can always change this later. Now it's just a matter of getting it to work when the player has their left mouse button down. And the last thing we did for this iteration is we got zooming in down. On the screen is probably the epitome of what we discussed earlier. First, we get the weapon to merely zoom in by changing the camera boom length suddenly when the player presses and releases the right mouse button. Then, it's simply a matter of molding this primitive execution into something more refined. Obviously, we don't want the camera zoom to be changing so vigorously, so we're gonna have to change the camera zoom at a fixed rate. And same thing here, we want to make it work for zooming in first, and then make it work for zooming out. I know that these may seem like very rudimentary ideas, but 2 years ago I can almost assure you that John Lamb and I were making these simple mistakes that exponentially increase development time. Restarting and revisiting old ideas can be really fun and exciting. It helps you see how much you've grown, and you have the ability to take things further than you did before. There are ideas that you can't conceptualize the first time around because you were too focused on the concrete ideas. But as you come around the second, third, fourth time, or even more, you have a better idea of what fundamentals are pertaining to development and problem solving. So what I hope for this side quest is to get further than we did 2 years ago, better and faster. And hopefully that leads us to a game that everyone can play. Anyhow, that should be it for this iteration. Depending on how this week goes, we might get a side quest update, or we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming with the arena game. In either case, we'll see you there. Thanks for watching and be well.